What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 17 of the College Loop Podcast, and a little mix-up combo today. Mr. Harrison Tarr is not here. He is at a wedding, missing out on Auburn athletics like a weirdo. I mean, who goes? Can't trust Saturday weddings.
No,
Fall weddings are the worst, though.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, but I'm joined today by Daniel Locke, as always on the show. Daniel, how you doing?
Dylan, I'm doing great. It's good to be here. Wish Auburn could have pulled it out today, but what just happened to Norman makes it a little bit easier.
It is bittersweet, as one might call it. Alabama just lost by almost 30 points to the Oklahoma Sooners, but Auburn could not pull out a win in their Big 12 challenge, losing 80-77 to West Virginia in a game where it kind of hurts me more than probably it hurts a lot of other Auburn fans because I have family in West Virginia who are actively rooting against us, and we're talking a lot of crap. But Auburn went down 17 points and at the end of the first half, came back, lost within 3. But, I mean, it's really hard to win when you let Eric Stevenson put up 31 points.
Yeah, they've definitely got to find a way to keep opposing guards from just absolutely dicing them like that, because that's just been one of the most common themes with Auburn losing games this year is when the other team has a guard that just goes off and Auburn just falls apart defensively. And we saw it today. We saw it Wednesday night. So hopefully they can kind of figure that out because they're going to be playing a lot of pretty good guards here down the stretch.
Especially one that just lost in Norman with Brandon Miller, who kind of should worry a lot of Auburn fans. Yeah. But kind of a coming out party for KD Johnson. Did put up 10 points, but I mean, the entire team shot pretty poorly from the 3. Your best 3-point shooters and Alan Flanagan, Wendell Green, and Jalen Williams all had 1 3 to their names. But Jay Will shot 1 of 3, Wendell Green 1 of 5, Alan Flanagan 1 of 4. And I mean, when Wendell Green is shooting the same 3-point percentage as KD Johnson, it's not going to end well offensively for Auburn.
No.
But the second half was a huge difference. There was a huge difference between the first half and the second half for the Tigers. I think if they would have came out swinging like they did in the second half, I think this would have been a win for one thing, but it would have been a pretty substantial win because in the second half, Auburn really found a groove. Janai Broome didn't score a single point in the first half, and he put up 15 in the second.
Yeah, they definitely kind of made some halftime adjustments that worked. Unfortunately, you couldn't. The hole was just a little too deep to dig out of, but it's good to see that this Auburn team just won't roll over and quit. Like that, they will fight and they will try to get back in any game, no matter the deficit.
Yeah, we talked about it last week when we previewed this game. That if Auburn lost this game, it's going to be pretty hard to dig themselves out of the hole because right now every game is really dependent on where your seeding is going to be. And we thought this was a kind of a comeback game. We thought this was going to be where Auburn could win against a middle of the road West Virginia team and kind of solidify themselves back into a tournament team, or at least like a 6 or higher seed. But from the first half and the second half, I mean, yeah, they came back within 3 in the second half, but the first half was just so bad. You're almost wondering, like, which team are you going to see more often throughout the remaining schedule? This was probably the second easiest game remaining on Auburn's schedule.
Honestly, probably so. And it's just, like you said, it's not getting any easier. You're about to get into the real meat of the schedule because, like next Saturday you play Tennessee, and it really doesn't stop. So it's definitely a little kind of disheartening today to see that they couldn't get it done. And it really makes you wonder for what's ahead.
Because look at the schedule. They play we'll have a preview show for this, but Wednesday they play Georgia in Neville Arena. So hopefully you can get a build off of. I mean, Georgia's already playing better than they have been playing in like the past 3 or 4 years. Yeah. Then you mentioned Saturday at Tennessee, and then you go at College Station to play Texas A&M, who just beat Auburn and ended their home winning streak. Then you get Alabama, then Missouri, who just clobbered Iowa State. I think Iowa State came back. I think it was closer, but last time I checked, it was up by like 20. At Vanderbilt versus Ole Miss, which Ole Miss and Vanderbilt probably the 2 easiest games left out of the rest. But then right after Ole Miss, you go to Lexington, Kentucky. Then you go to Tuscaloosa, and then you wrap up the season in Neville Arena versus Tennessee, and then you got to get into the SEC tournament. And
Yeah, it's
I
it's a
mean,
brutal stretch for sure.
I,
So
yeah, I don't think it can get any harder for any other team unless you're already a bad team and you have to deal with that. If you can pull out, let's see, how many games is that? 4, 5, 10 games left. I mean, 4 of those 10 just look almost impossible to win at this moment. I mean, it could definitely change if Auburn comes out swinging against Georgia from the get go and finds a way to keep it close at Tennessee. I think maybe you could salvage the season.
mhm.
Auburn's still a tournament team, but I mean, the seeding is looking like it might be kind of low, like mighty low, if this current trend keeps up with how they've been playing.
Yeah, and then if you go too low, I just don't see this team making much of a run at all.
Yeah, it's going to be a rough stretch if Auburn, if the second half team that we saw today can come out against Georgia and can finish other. If Auburn can get hot, if Auburn can get
Mhm.
hot right now, if that second half was what Auburn needed just to push a little further, then I think the season can be saved. But I mean, at Tennessee, at A&M, at Bama, at Kentucky, those are all pretty hard places to win at. And then you add in the fact that I mean Georgia's playing good, A&M's playing good, Bama is not going to be second best team in the country anymore, but they were and probably still are going to be in the top 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Missouri is pretty dang good. I mean, I don't even want to say they're gimme wins anymore. I think Vanderbilt can definitely be a trap game,
It could be.
and I mean Ole Miss is bad. Like they're really bad. But I mean, you don't know what Auburn's going to show up on any given week. So I mean,
True.
but yeah, the Wednesday episode or the Tuesday episode, we'll have a preview of this game, and Thursday will be the review. So hopefully, within those 2 days, we can pull out a win at Georgia and hopefully continue a streak. But to go from some not so good news to some good news, Daniel, you were at this game, right? No, you weren't. Never mind. It's at Kentucky. I thought it was Neville Arena. But women's basketball is continuing their win streak in the SEC, extended to 2 as they took down the Kentucky Wildcats 71-68. And was it overtime?
No, it was regulation.
Regulation? Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, great win for Johnny Harris. I almost said Janai Harris because of Janai Broom, but Johnny Harris and the Lady Tigers. As I mean, Aisha Kubali put up 20 points, which I mean, you're expecting big nights from her every night, and she goes from a 31-point game to a 20-point game, which is
Mhm.
kind of evident right now that if Auburn wants to keep up the streak, give Aisha Kubali the ball.
Yeah,
But yeah, just give me your thoughts on the game.
sure. So definitely a great way to build off of what they did at home last Sunday. Another game that just helped build confidence. And Sanaya Wells hosted excuse me, a season high. Goodness. Okay.
I need a nap after the show.
Yeah. Sanaya Wells posted a season high 16 points. Honestly, Scott Grayson's still coming back in form with a 12-point game and 8 points from Precious Johnson, 7 points from Carissa Richardson. And the team they win games when they can successfully score from inside the paint. And I think 40 of their 71 points came from inside the paint. So that's always very encouraging. They also did a good job of capitalizing on turnovers as they had a good I can't remember the exact number, but they did really well against Kentucky in the points off turnovers and second chance points. So if they can continue to play to that level, really convert at the line like they've been doing, I don't see why they can't keep it rolling and knock off the Florida Gators at home on Monday.
Yeah, looking at the box score, they forced Kentucky to have 20 turnovers, which I mean really helps. And you brought it up; they're playing Florida on Monday, tomorrow as this comes out. And is that I remember we talked about it a lot. We talk about it every day almost. That women's basketball could put up 5 conference wins, and I mean they're almost halfway there. You can't really win a half game,
No.
but I think Florida is one of those winnable games you see for the Tigers if they continue to play as well they've been playing these past 2 games. And I know Vanderbilt was on that as well. Let's see
Hmm.
who was the other who was the fifth team? Uh,
I think Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. We don't have
No,
them
we've
on.
already played
We've
them.
already beat Ole Miss.
Um, Let me look
There's
at this
Florida,
here.
Arkansas. I'm gonna skip South Carolina because there's no way. At Bama, A&M, at Tennessee, at
Maybe it's
Georgia,
at Georgia
at Georgia.
or A&M, one of those.
All right, so potentially six.
Sure.
But yeah, if Auburn can continue the streak that they're the games aren't like blowouts by no means, but I mean
No.
when a team who is in a rebuilding stage can come out and win these close, hard fought games, and
Hmm.
it's a confidence builder for the team. And you look down the stretch. I mean, Auburn could make some noise in the SEC tournament, but the thing is with the SEC tournament, if you want to get in the NCAA tournament, you have to win the SEC tournament, and which means you have to play either an LSU or South Carolina again. So, I mean, I think the tournament's out of reach for Auburn, but I mean, finish out the season, you get 5 or 6 SEC conference wins after you just went what 0 for 6 in the conference.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's pretty good, and I think that's a great standing point to go into next season with.
I think so too. And if you look at this Florida team, they're pretty cold as they've dropped 4 of their last 5. So it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility to see Auburn pick up a win on Monday.
And their win over Vanderbilt, who's one of the teams that we saw, but they also lost to Kentucky a few weeks ago, actually, in uh, in the swamp. They lost 81-75 to Kentucky, and I think that I mean it'd be huge if Auburn could pull out another win. I think that Auburn's going on the right path, especially with Sanaya Wells putting up a lot of some good points off the bench. And I'm assuming that she's going to be. Oh, is Aisha Coulibaly a senior?
Yeah.
Oh, no, she's a junior actually. So we
Oh,
have another season of Aisha Coulibaly. So next season, expect Aisha Coulibaly and Sanaya Wells to kind of replace the on Scott Grayson. And I think this recruiting class coming in is pretty good as well.
hmm.
So I think that Auburn is kind of looking up in women's basketball. So I know you had a tweet pop off about how fun it is to cover women's sports, and it'd be really huge if women's basketball could bring the kind of crowd that men's basketball or like even gymnastics could bring in.
Yeah.
Just build the culture at Auburn.
Absolutely. I would love to see that get kind of see the culture become what it once was, like back in the Joe Champy days in the '90s. Um, or I mean, honestly, even if the arena looked like what it did in the early Bruce days, that would be really cool. But there's still a long way to go, but we can get there for sure under the leadership of Johnny Harris.
Yeah. And just move from one women's sport to another. Last night, or actually, let's see, is this that Friday night? Auburn Gymnastics hosted NC State, the number 20 team in the country, and won by another point win, which I've been informed a point win is pretty much a blowout in gymnastics.
Oh yeah.
And on a career night for Cassie Stevens, who had I think 2 9-9s on the
Mm-hmm.
day, one on vault and the other on was it floor or was it beam that she did?
Floor.
I know she's an all around, so she put up a hell of a night last
She
night,
did.
and it was huge. I made sure she was the headliner on the final score graphic, but I mean, gymnastics is just filthy.
They are very, very good. A team that's just loaded with talent, and I'm really, really excited to see what they can do as the season rolls along.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm going to pull up the schedule while I'm talking, so I can try to remember when their next meet is.
I
But
know their next home one is against LSU.
LSU, that one's going to be absolutely packed to the brim in Neville Arena.
They will be.
But let's see, their next meet is at Alabama in a week on February 3rd. So that is next
Friday
Friday,
night. Yep.
which is going to be probably another hard fought game. Auburn looking like a championship team. We say it every week. This is a championship caliber team.
They
And
are. And a little shameless plug, I will have coverage of this meet live from Coleman Coliseum on Friday. So if you're not following me on Twitter at Daniel J. Locke is the place for your gymnastics coverage. But I'm excited. always a good time to watch Alabama and Auburn face off in anything. A little more so when it's one that we're have a good shot at winning. So I'm very, very excited for that meet, and I'm excited for this season.
Yeah, hopefully, we say it all the time. Put up a statue of Simi Lee. Put up a statue of De'Aaron Goborn. And Cassie Stevens
Absolutely.
is making her case for why she deserves a statue in front
Yeah,
of Neville Arena.
why not?
And just moving on from gymnastics to football is junior day on the Plains yesterday, actually, and Auburn was loaded up on players. I mean, we talked about a few of them, but just for me to go through the entire list, the class of 2024 is there. 3-star quarterback Kamari McClellan, 4-star running back Jamarion Burnett, who we covered on last week with me and Tarr, 4-star wide receiver, two 4-star wide receivers. I'm just gonna say the positions in the stars because that just makes it easier on me. 3-star wide receiver, 3-star O line, 4-star D line, 3-star D line, 4-star or 4-star linebackers for class 24, 4 4-star defensive backs, 3 4-star athletes, and class 25 you got quarterback, running back, all 4 stars, and 2 5-stars on the edge and defensive back.
You gotta love it.
Hugh Freeze is absolutely killing it in the recruiting world right now. His ability to bring in all these guys on the same day that Alabama was holding theirs. I think that was around 50 or 50 names. I think I was about to read before I stopped myself just to save my voice. It's incredible.
Yeah, it's definitely a breath of fresh air from what we've seen over the past couple seasons of just, in the nicest way possible, non-existent recruiting efforts. And that's one thing, like, that will make or break your SEC football program. If you can't recruit, don't even show up on Saturdays in the fall because there's no point. So the fact that since since Hugh Freeze has taken over the helm of the Auburn football program, he wasted no time doing the most important things, putting together a staff and hitting the road. And he's been on the road nonstop, yet he's still making appearances, which I like to see. He was at I forget which one, I believe the Arkansas basketball game. He was there.
I think
So that was really
right.
cool to see. So hopefully that just he continues to do both.
And you would have really enjoyed the conversation we had last week because I'm just going to run through some of the schools again that we have kids visiting from. 2027 quarterback Trent Seaborn, who we talk about all the time. I think it's Seaborn, actually. It's from Thompson High School in Alabama. We also have a 4-star wide receiver in the class 24 from Central Phoenix City in Alabama. 4-star athlete DeMarcus Riddick, Chilton County, Alabama. 4-star running back Jamarion Burnett from Andalusia, which is in Alabama. 4-star defensive back Jaden Lewis in Anniston, Alabama. And so on and so forth. I don't have all the schools in front of me, but it seems like I know you're going to enjoy talking about this because we talked about that a lot on our first, second episode about how it's been really hard for Auburn to win the state in recruiting.
Yeah,
and not even like coming in second place in recruiting. Sometimes
exactly.
we would lose recruiting battles to out of state, like Florida, Georgia, Florida State. All those schools would just take athletes right under our noses, especially with like Central Phoenix City, who Auburn has been refusing to recruit from the past, I think, 2 coaching staffs. I can't really remember how far back to the Chiswick days, but Central Phoenix City is like 45 minutes from Auburn.
Right.
Like there's no reason why a Auburn coach cannot be able to recruit to a school that is like down the road.
Exactly. It's like you would never see Nick Saban lose a 5-star out of Tuscaloosa ever.
Or Bessemer or Birmingham. All those athletes are just right there, and Saban's always right in there with them.
Yeah. Like it's very disheartening to see a top 10 recruit from the state of Alabama go to Oklahoma. Like there's just no reason that couldn't have been an Auburn recruit. So I'm really glad to see that Hugh Freeze is putting an emphasis on trying to get back some of the ground we've lost in the state, but still not losing focus on like the Floridas and Georgias and even getting out into Texas a little bit, which is a gold mine.
Which, Alabama's surrounded by states that just produce a lot of talent. And
yeah,
I mean, Alabama can produce some talent too, but probably not on the same wavelength as a Florida or a Georgia or a Texas can. And those states are also important. You want to win battles there too.
Mhm.
You're least likely to steal a 5-star from Georgia or Texas than you are to get a 5-star from Alabama. Especially
Right.
when you have a 4-star wide receiver who is probably going to be a 5-star by the end of the next recruiting cycle, and he's like right there. You can be like, hey, you can come on you can bring your family down to the university and watch our recruiting or talk to our coaches and all that stuff, and they're just right there. Like,
Yeah.
dude can come right out of class. He can just leave school, come down the road.
Yeah. Make a day trip out of it.
Exactly. And I know some of these other places on here, Gainesville, Georgia is on here, and a few other schools are thrown out Easton County, Georgia, they're all thrown in there. And you would like to win the state of Georgia too, just to
Yeah.
kind of dethrone another one of your rivals. But I mean, you're never going to win Georgia. You're never going to win Florida. You're never going to win Tennessee. But to watch Hugh Freeze sit down and basically let Auburn fans know that he wants to pick up players who are in your state. And I mean, if you're playing somebody 14, you got to go for the pipeline states. And there's not a
Yeah.
bigger pipeline state for Auburn than Alabama.
Exactly.
And I mean, you can't let. It sounds so repetitive, but I just want to put it out there. You cannot let these out-of-state schools out recruit you, especially when they're recruiting from schools that are right next to you, like they're under your nose. Kirby Smart is right under your nose, talking to all these 5-star and 4-stars that are at Auburn High, Opelika High, Central Phoenix City, Alex City. All those cities all around Auburn are getting out recruited by a school that is 6 hours away.
Right.
And I'm loving what Hugh Freeze is doing. I'd love it, and I'm gonna love to see how high of a recruiting class he has. I don't want to like jinx anything. I'll knock on my. I think this could be a top 10 class for Auburn next season.
I think so.
And you're not going to get everybody. I know there's 50 names that were in Auburn yesterday, but I mean, if you could pull in half that, if maybe a little more. I mean, this is not everybody Auburn's going to have visit over the past few things, but I'm going to show it to my camera, just like all those names. That's a lot of 4-stars on there.
Yeah.
A class full of half those guys would be a pretty dang good class.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, that's all we had today. It was a little quick episode after we had 2-hour-long episodes come out, but we had a lot of things to talk about those 2 days. But with that being said, I'm Dylan Larck at your boy the Tank on Twitter. Daniel, you can go ahead and plug yourself.
I'm Daniel Locke at Daniel J. Locke on Twitter.
And follow us on all our socials. We got Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We got YouTube. We got TikTok. And it's all at the College Loop. Don't look us up on MySpace because we don't have that yet. But that being said, it's been the College Loop Podcast.